Hello, I'm Matt from UKE magazine, and this is a video to accompany the Technique Zone article in issue 25, looking at different picking patterns. So I'm going to accompany that article with this video, which will show you some of the common and less common patterns that we discuss in that UKE magazine article in issue 25. If you don't yet subscribe or read UKE magazine, you can get hold of copies at worldofukes.co.uk. In the main with these exercises, I'm only going to worry about my right hand. My left hand, in the majority of cases, I'm just going to hold down the C chord just to help it sound nice. But at the end of each exercise, I'll demonstrate how this would sound if you change the chords a little bit. But we're mostly thinking about our right hand. And also with these exercises, which are also in UKE magazine issue 25, I have given them names. Now these are names that I've made up off the top of my head, and they're just names that I've given things, so when I write down some songs that I'm working on, I want a specific picking pattern, I can call it these names. For example, the first one's called The Running Man, and that is not an official terminology, it's just something to help me remember. So we'll start with The Running Man. I've called the first exercise The Running Man because your fingers make this kind of motion which looks a little bit like a running man. When I say it like that, it seems quite obvious, doesn't it? It involves starting with the G string with your first finger, then your middle finger picks the A string. As your middle finger is picking the A string, your first finger is moving up to pick the E string. That first finger then is dragged down to the C string, and then back down again to the G string to start again. So it's first finger G string, middle finger A string, first finger E string, first finger C string, and then repeat. Of course, when you're picking, you don't have to stick with just one string at a time. And in this next exercise, which I've called the twin drag, again, just a name that I've used to help me remember these, you're going to pick two strings at once. That's the A string and the E string. And I'm going to use my first finger and middle finger for those. After I've picked that A and E together with those first and middle fingers, my first finger is going to drag down to the C string and then the G string. So just to repeat for the twin drag, middle finger and first finger, pick the A and E together, then the first finger, the C string, and then the first finger, the G string. The next picking pattern, which I've called Cascades, because I think it gives a kind of cascade of notes, is much more complicated, and it will help in this case if you've got the diagram in issue 25 of UKE magazine. But just to run through it quickly, it again involves picking two strings at once with my first and my middle finger, and in this case it's going to be the two central strings, the E and the C. After doing the E and the C together with those first and middle fingers, I'm going to pick the G string with my first finger, and then with my middle finger the top string, the A. So that first section is the middle two together, then the G string, then the A. But in this quite complicated pattern, I'm then going to move on to something different with only the single strings being picked at once. So after that, E and C together, then the G, then the A. I'm going to use my first finger to pick the C string, my middle finger to pick the E string. then my first finger to pick the G string, and my middle finger to pick the A string. And I'm going to repeat that a couple of times so it ends up sounding like this. And on that final note, I'll allow it to ring out a little bit before beginning again with the E and G together. First finger on the G, middle finger on the A, first finger on the C, middle finger on the E, first finger on the G, middle finger on the A, and again. So that ends up sounding like this, but as I say, with the diagram it's a lot easier, so probably best to get a copy of UKE magazine issue 25 to see it in writing, and this is what it sounds like. And that's one repetition, and then I start again. And that's the one I've called Cascades. If you struggle with any of these techniques, there is one which anyone can do called the thumb drag, and this one is, as you would expect, using your thumb, and it drags down across the strings one by one. So you start with your thumb on the G, then it goes to the C, the E and the A. So if you think about a strum, just a simple strum with your thumb, all we're doing is slowing it down from to one string at a time. What you might notice if you do this picking pattern is it's slightly easier to control the speed of your thumb going down the strings if instead of straight down, you start with your thumb on the G and you go in a slightly diagonal motion like this. Would help if I could actually sound out the G string without buzzing. Certainly works for me, slightly easier than that straight down motion, just to go in that slightly diagonal motion. With all these exercises, we've just been playing with the C chord, and while that's a very pretty way of playing a C chord, you will eventually, once you've got your right hand technique down, want to change chords. And of course, any of these picking patterns you can use with any chord progression. But I'm going to demonstrate each one of them now just with something I've made up, just so you can hear them in action. And of course I'm probably going to be going a little bit faster than you will be if you're just starting to learn, but you know, these would equally work in a slower format. So I'll start with the running man and use my running man fingers to play a little tune. We'll do the same for the twin drag now, which if you remember is the A and the E picked together with your middle and first fingers, and then the C with your first finger, the G with your first finger, and then repeat. For the example of Cascades, I'm going to use exactly the same chord progression as I did with the twin drag, and we'll hear that in action now. And finally onto the thumb drag, which is simply playing each string in turn from the G to the C to the E to the A with your thumb, and I prefer, for me, that slightly diagonal motion, and we'll try that one. So that was Technique Zone from issue 25 of UKE magazine. Remember, with any of these, you don't have to go as fast as me. Start slowly, work your way up, get that finger motion in whatever pattern you're using down before you worry about trying to keep up a particular pace, and you'll get there in the end. Thanks a lot, and I hope to see you again soon.